hasn't been driven once in that time. And his brother ordered a new 2024 Camaro. So I guess he's ready to let this one go. And we're going to buy it off of him. And he's pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I've wanted this car for a long time, but my dad passed away and went to my brother. It's too painful for him to drive it. He's only driven it once in 27 years. So I've driven the car once in my lifetime. That's it. One time. And that was only like a half a mile. He just loved that car. And I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but when he bought it, it had 50, I think it was 52,000 miles on it. So it probably doesn't have much more than that. My dad drove it a good bit when he was able to, but he owned it for several years before he got sick. I really hopefully wanted to get this car someday, so I'm very, very grateful to my brother to sell it to me, and the fact that he's going to park it, let me take it. So we're going to head out and go get it. It hasn't moved, and God knows how long it's been sitting in a garage parked. So I'm fearful for what the underside's going to look like. The garage is attached to the house, but it's not heated, it's a concrete floor. I hope it's not rusting away.
It's still locked up, but.
Do you want wood for the screw to go on?
Well, we got it. It's all loaded up. We're on our way home. You could tell it was tough for him to let it go. But, he knows where it'll be. It's not like it's leaving the family.
It ain't ever ready to leave.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So we'll get it home and get it unloaded. I don't know if we'll put it in the garage right away or if I'll clean up the inside a little bit. I'm not sure.
I'll put it outside, let you clean up the inside where it's been great.
Yeah.
Let you wash down the inside, get it all cleaned up.
truck is out of the garage, so this can go in. Now we have to find somewhere to put the black truck. The one back wheel's locked up, so we put that slide under there to try to get it off. It's got a dent in the fender, but he'll tell you about that because it was his fault. To have a Camaro back in my younger years. Honey, what year was that Camaro that I had? Do you remember? 78. I thought it was. Yeah, it used to be blue and then we painted it pink. It was a pretty cool car. I had it when I was in high school. You want me to push it? Trying to break the wheel loose.
Alright, so here it is, the car that means more to me and I can never tell you, that's for sure. So I'll give you a little rundown on the story. My mom was sick a lot when I was a kid, and my dad had to give up his Impala because he couldn't afford to fix it, and they needed the money for medical bills and prescriptions and stuff for my mom. And seeing how my mom was sick a lot, she had a bunch of surgeries when I was a kid, and since you know, she couldn't work, and Dad worked a full-time job, and then he worked on cars at home for people to make extra money. And if finally my mom started doing better and they started climbing out of that hole, by this time I was in my, I'd say, early teens. Well, Dad found this car around the corner for sale, so he stopped and talked to the guy about it, and the guy wanted a reasonable number for it. They just didn't have the money. So me, my brother, and my sister, we worked every odd job we could find. Mowing grass, weeding gardens, doing landscaping, shoveling snow, painting this, doing whatever we could to make the money. And then my mom had made a deal with this guy. My dad gave up and thought he couldn't get it, so my mom made a deal with this guy to pay him so much every month till the car was paid for, and then they'd come and get it. And he got it on Father's Day that following year. Well, unfortunately, My dad passed away when he was only 48 years old, so I didn't really get a chance to drive this a whole lot. When we bought it, it had 52,000 miles on it, and it has 53,000 miles now. And it's not an original Camaro. It's had body work done before my dad got it, but it's been stored for 27 years. When my dad passed away, what ended up happening was my brother was living with my mom and dad at the time. My dad passed away, and between the time he was diagnosed with end-stage cancer, they gave him 6 months to live. Well, they had to apply for disability to continue to pay the bills, and my dad unfortunately never got any disability, so my brother stepped up, helped my parents pay the bills, and my dad passed away. This car was left to my brother for helping them out, and my brothers finally decided it's time to part with it, and that's why I have it now. So I went over and got it from him. It's taken a while. I've been trying to buy it from him for years, but he just didn't want to part with it. I understood, but it's had some work done on the lower fenders on both sides. It's had rockers replaced. The both rear quarters have been replaced. Trunk's original. So you know, it's a nice looking car, but it's not a fantastic car. What it is it was good enough for my dad, so it's good enough for me. It's a 350 with a 350 transmission. It's a power brake car, no power steering, no air conditioning. It is just your, bone stock basic Camaro, little bitty radiator. There's some things about it, quirky things that the previous owner did that my dad didn't care for, but he left it because he just didn't want to change it. Still got the points distributor in it. It hasn't been started, and I think my brother said it's been probably 10 or 15 years since it's been started. I've got the original, not the original, I don't know if these are original. These are 14-inch rally wheels that are on it. It's got air shocks on the back, but my dad had historical plates for it. Those are one of the things in Ohio, you get them and you never have to renew them. I think my brother said he did this while it was in his garage at home. But it's all complete. There's some things you can see, like the body lines don't line up quite right, and we have a fiberglass hood too that came with it. It was a fiberglass scoop. This was my fault. I was 16 years old, and I worked at an auto parts store selling auto parts, and one of the guys I worked with had an engine that my dad wanted, and he told me, he says, "I want that engine. I'm gonna give you the money. I want you to go get that engine." I said, "Okay, Dad, I will." So he gave me the money. I was driving a little Ranger at the time, or an S10, one or the other, I don't recall. And I put that motor in the back of the truck, and I came home that night. I told Dad, I said, "It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so we have to get that motor out of my truck and get it in the garage." And he said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it in the morning. I got some things I got to take care of." I said, "All right." So morning came, I had to be to work early. I called Dad. I went in Dad's room. I said, "Dad, you have to get up. We got to get that motor out of my truck. I got to go to work." He's like, "I'll be out there in a few minutes." Dad went back to sleep. I went back in, a few minutes later. I'm like, "Dad, I have got to get this out of here. I got to get to work." And he's like, "All right, I'm getting up right now." My dad worked long hours, so he didn't really sleep a lot. But when he went to sleep, he was tough to get up. But I couldn't wait any longer, so I took back that pickup truck in the garage, and we had a block and tackle hanging in there my dad would fiddle with cars with, and I hooked at that thing, and I'm running them chains, and it's coming across the rafters and joists, ceiling joists in the garage, and that's how he pulled motors. He had 2x4 stacked up, nailed across several trusses, whatever it was, and me pulling on that vibrated a little piece of wood that was stacked over on a piece of OSB over here, and man, it fell down and it hit that car right there, and my dad never fixed it. I felt so bad about that. I kept telling my dad, I said, "I'll get it fixed, I'll pay for it," and he never did. He just left that. I know that hurt. that hurt me more than it hurt him, but it really upset him. I felt so bad about that. So, anyways, you see the door kind of drops there a little bit, but it's all original. A little bit of, not all original. The interior is original. A little bit of wear there. You can see how the rockers and the quarter fender's been put in here. But it's all here. I remember when Dad put this in. The old factory radio wasn't in the car when he got it, and I had this Jensen and old tape deck. Dad, I was gonna took it out of whatever I was driving before. I told Dad, I said, I don't want that radio. If you want it, you can have it. So Dad put it in here. He also put these gauges. I was working at the parts store, and he's like, you all got some temperature and oil pressure gauges down there? I said, yeah, we do. And he's like, well, how much are they? I'll give you some money and have you get a set for me. And I said, okay, I'll get them. I got them, brought them home, and Dad wanted to pay me for it, and I didn't let him. I told him, no, you just take them. These are my dad's worry beads. He put, these have been in, I don't know how many different vehicles that he drove. Every vehicle that I know of he drove, these were in there. I'm not sure where he got these, but I think it was from Germany when he was in the Army. I'm not sure. You can see here, it's 52,873 miles. That's as much as it went. When my brother got the title from my dad, the mileage said actual on it. We knew it was actual then, but the state, when they transferred title over, they put exempt on it, so they're not, whatever. But everything's here. Console shift. It's even still got. My dad was a smoker. That's why he passed away. My dad's empty cigarette packs, and when he went to McDonald's and got a scratch off. Really interesting stuff here. Last time this car was registered was when he was alive. It was my dad's ice scraper, not for this car, but it was his, so my brother put it in here. That the speakers and speaker covers, I had one of my trucks, and Dad wanted to put some new speakers in there, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna get new ones, so you can have these ones. I just didn't want my dad to go buy new ones. And got the original keys that my dad had. This is probably the thing that hits the hardest here. These are the tools that my dad had in here. And when he got sick, he was working on this. He was replacing these light sockets for the backup lights. Dad wanted to replace them because he was having trouble, sometimes working, sometimes not. And so I got him some of these from the parts store, and he started replacing them, and then that's when he got sick. So that backup light never got hooked back up. He didn't do this other side either. Dad liked those blue dots, they call them. These purple lights. He wanted some of them. I found some over at Summit Racing, so I went and got them and brought them to him. As you can see here how the quarter fender's been replaced in here and up in here. So she's not original, but it's good enough for him. It's good enough for me. Trunk's in good shape, but that's all his tools that he was working on. And what he had here, I don't know why he had a 1/2-inch socket on these bolts nuts back here, but he also had a shell or a 3/8 drive. Maybe they were stuck, I don't know. The ratchet wasn't here. Must have needed that for something else. This little, that Craftsman? Yep. The Craftsman set, look at that. Light bulbs in there too.
These are the floor mats that were in it. They didn't belong to this car. Again, something that came out of one of my, I think my very first car I bought had them. They were just in the trunk. I bought it from a guy who did detailing. So, anyways, so what needs to happen, since this hasn't been run in forever, we're going to drain all the fluids, and we'll start with pulling out the spark plugs. Look, that's burnt there. The spark plug wire's burnt. It's a zip tie. Zip tie's burnt. Must have been a holder for up here, something. I'll pull all the spark plugs out, put a little blaster in the cylinders, probably put some down the carburetor, and then I'll turn it over by hand. I'll just put a 15/16 wrench on the alternator if I can, get it to spin over. And it doesn't have any brakes. There's brake fluid in it, so I don't know if it's something wrong in the master cylinder or if there's a broken line somewhere. There's absolutely no gas in it at all. It's got a 350. It's got these casting marks on the head. So, and I actually looked up paperwork for my dad. There was, I found it from a guy I knew for engine serial number, casting numbers, identification, and it was on a ledge on the block. I don't recall where it was now. This side or this side? I'm not a Chevy guy, but anyways, there was casting numbers on the block and casting numbers on the head, and he wanted to identify the motor, and it came back as a 350. So I don't know if Dad said that was original or if he thought it had been replaced. I can't remember now. It's been so long. But you know, it's got some overspray here. It's had body work, it's been painted, but regardless, I think it's still a good driver. And we have the other hood for it, which is a fiberglass scoop hood. You can see how the paint doesn't match because this was not this hood was not on at the time it was repainted. It was a lighter blue than this. The scoop hood that was on it when we bought it, it matches this well, but that's okay. My plan is to make it a driver. Just clean it up, get rid of the points, because I'm not a big fan of points. I'll put an HEI distributor in it. I have to do all the brakes all the way around. That wheel's locked up. I took the wheel off and beat the drum until it came loose from the shoes and then pulled it off. Think about that. The last person to put them lug nuts on this car was my dad, and I got them lug nuts for him because it originally had these Krager SS's on it, and he loved these wheels. These were his favorite wheels, but he wanted to run them wider, these wider tires, so he put these ones on it because these came with it when he bought it. But it'll need all new brakes, all new brake lines. I'm going to do everything in the brakes: hoses, calipers, wheel cylinders, shoes, hardware, pads, rotors, drums, master cylinder. You know, if I touch it, I'm just going to replace it. It'll need shocks because, you know, the front ones are leaking. As a matter of fact, I got to do coil springs too, because coil springs in these are so worn that it has them, it was sitting too low for these tires and it would hit the mud flaps. So he asked me to get them coil things that you put, them expanders, you put them in a coil and use a 1/2-inch ratchet and you turn them, and they create lift, temporary lift in a leaf spring or in a coil spring. So it needs coil springs, so we'll just do ball joints upper and lower and control arm bushings and all that at the same time. But for right now, my wife's cleaning the interior up because unfortunately it had some mold on it from sitting and being closed up. So she's getting it cleaned up, and then it's going to sit right back in there for a while. But that's the story of the car. I've been waiting an awful long time to get this thing. I'm so happy to have it here with me finally. Hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.